Has everyone looked over the agenda? Could I have is there a motion to accept the agenda?
Move to approve, move to accept.
A second that motion.
Has everyone reviewed the items on the consent agenda, the approval of the February 22nd, 2023 minutes?
Yes.
The statistical report and the approval of pending deposited gifts reports. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move to approve. A second.
Is there anyone here for public comment?
They're all here for tax.
Thanks.
So that's the AARP tax help. They meet almost every day. Folks who, seniors who need help with their taxes, and people who need assistance going up with tax.
That's
They're
nice.
busy. They take appointments and they meet in there.
There should be an age when you don't have to do that anymore.
Yes, I agree.
Understand what's going on.
I think we're ready for reports. Do we have anything from the library friends?
Yes, hello, Ruth, probably hear me. There we go. Ruth apologizes, she wasn't able to be here today to put the meeting, but in any case, just got a few things to mention. The Friends just held a book club on March 11th, and that's in preparation for their sale coming up on the 14th and 15th of April. It's pushed a little bit forward. Usually, first Friday is the date that those land, but the spring holiday, how it hits this year, we'll look at that. So it's a little bit later than normal. Their fall sale will be the 3rd and 4th, I believe, of November. But they just going through the budget process. They're on a little bit of a different fiscal year. So we had submitted our request to them. They're looking to give a gift of $21,500 to the library this year for programming support. And let's see, what else? They're endeavoring to change their fiscal year to the normal year beginning in July. So they'll probably have to push this year a little bit. It'll be a little bit longer budget year for them than otherwise to get them on track. And that'll be helpful to us, especially for everybody to be on the same page there. But I think those are the major things. They have a couple new board members, Sharon Fuller that retired from RPL in the past year, and Ward Taft, former proprietor of Chop Suey Books in Carrington, and we're grateful to have them involved. But I think that's everything I have this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
May I ask a question? Last time we talked about reverse donations. Would a group like Chop Suey, and then I saw that Book People is moving to bigger facilities in Henrico. I wonder if they would take some things.
It's a possibility. I think Ward is helping out, kind of explore some of those options.
Good.
He currently works with Diversity Thrift, and so we're hoping to be with some materials sent their way when they have capacity for it.
Yeah, good idea. How was the book drive? Successful? Too much? Too little? Uh-oh.
We got a lot of material.
Okay.
They're plowing through it rather quickly, it seems, but it should be in good shape for the April sale.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Do we have a report from the Library Foundation?
Good morning. The foundation has been hard at work preparing for the kickoff of our big fundraising initiative this year. That kickoff is Tuesday, April 25th, with the Maya Smart Reading for Our Lives event. You should have a flyer at your spot. And we have numerous flyers, and we'll have them around the library system, and we'll be sharing those with community partners as well. The Maya Smart event kicks off the fundraising initiative, which is running through December of this year. And our goal is to fully fund summer camps for rising kindergartners, family resource carnivals, and expanding and enhancing existing programs, and highlighting the importance of early childhood learning and how we can best do that through Richmond Public Library and programs within our branches with our amazing staff. I want to thank the Virginia Credit Union. They are the book sponsor for the event. So we will be purchasing and providing Maya Smart's book Reading for Our Lives to all parents and guardians attending that event. And again, we thank Virginia Credit Union for that. And we also want to acknowledge and appreciate Town Bank Foundation, which has made a small donation specifically toward the summer camp. In addition to those efforts, I want to thank Chris Peterson and a couple of other foundation board members for their help in approaching local foundations to support these efforts in early childhood learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a report from the administration?
I've included a lot of information in my report on page 6. I want to highlight that we hired a new collection development librarian. Her name is Erin Bralier, and she started about 2 weeks ago. She's going to work in technical services and really take over where Meg is one of our senior librarians, and she'd been filled in for that position for the last year and a half. So Erin comes with a lot of experience from Central Rappahannock. She's done technical services and purchasing. One thing you may notice, and I'm hearing from my neighbors, is that overdrive is really, people are seeing their overdrive hold pick up. So that's good. What we've done is we put some more money and assess some of the positions we have in overdrive in terms of holds and items requested, and started filling some of those holes with funding that we have. So you should see more of that going. And if you haven't used the Livy app, I strongly recommend you use it. It's awesome. So she's on board, and we're really doing our best to try and catch up on all of our resource purchases. We also hired Charlie Smith. Some of you may remember Charlie. He was worked for the library about 10 years ago. He was in charge of foundation, was our grant writer at one time. Charlie got his law degree and has worked for ACLU and is going to come back to the library from the state. So he kind of wanted to come back to the library when the position that Meldon left to go take over at Wall Street. He's going to return and take over for the law library. And we have a lot of big ideas we'd like to try out, and I think Charlie will just do a great job. You see there's a note in here about our community memory fellow. That person has started. Her name is Chloe McCormick. She has hit the ground running, and we're really evaluating our collections in terms of building that uniquely Richmond model. So look for more from her in the coming weeks and months. There's a note in here about James River Association and a DEQ grant we've continued. So they are beginning construction at the East End branch, as we've done at North Avenue, Broad Rock, Westover Hills, and West End. So they are doing a stormwater mitigation project out there, beautify the branch, and that, I think they're under, they started construction. Not yet. So we've got some permitting issues that we have to get, like access permitting issues that have to go before council, and then they should be able to start. And that will end up similar to the way we've done at other branches with the stormwater mitigation. So it looks like, and in here I've listed a date. So in April, we look to do some planting again. So stay tuned for that. I think Janet helped out with that. So bring your gloves and things like that. I also included in this report, one of the things you've requested is just stories about successful things that are happening around the branch. So if you look on page 7, I've listed something to celebrate it in March from the library. So little anecdotal stories about what's happening, some of the branches to kind of just let you know what's going on and how some of our successes is what I'm sharing with you there. Quick update on North Avenue Branch. The 27th, next Monday, a moving company is supposed to come in and help us get a lot of the furniture out of the way. There's a lot of furniture all over the place that needs to be pulled out of there so that we can do the contractors can do the drywalling and put the carpet down. But it's hard, they can't work in the space because there's all of the stuff that's in there. So that's been a critical path item that we've had to work on the last few weeks, few months to kind of get in order. So they should be starting next Monday and the rest of the work should proceed pretty quickly. So that is ongoing. And that concludes most of what I have to tell you about March. And then you'll notice we've got a lot of information about what's coming up in April. So Susan mentioned Maya Smart. We have 100th anniversary events planned. If you look at this sheet, we have a Rosa Bowser presentation plan.
Right.
We're also putting the finishing touches on National Library Week, which will be the 3rd week of April. So Ripple will probably be visiting, story times and, just celebrating that. So please plan April 25th for the Maya Smart event. We have the Yava Award. That has been an ongoing, is this the 10th year of Yava, Jen? Okay, so Jen is the chair of that committee that runs our Yava Award, and the Yava Award is recognizes young adult author in the state of Virginia. We're one of the few libraries in the country that recognizes young adult Virginia state specific authors, and we have some good ones, and so it's quite, I think it's significant that we recognize that to try and promote young adult authors, because that's an age group that we're really trying to connect with, and this is one way to recognize the work being done and also promote it. I think that covers all of my report. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. I love the anecdotal things you put on here. And I was wondering, how's the computer checkout going? Is the laptop?
It's starting kind of slow. We have them in all locations. When patrons are mentioning the need, we've been promoting it. I don't know, have we prepared the website? Do we have a web page? So we have a page on the website that's promoting it. So we need to probably.
There haven't been any problems getting them back or anything like that?
No, we haven't had any problems like that.
Okay. All right, good. All right, Garrett is, I'm sorry, any other questions or comments? Garrett, do we have an update?
We do, and good afternoon, everyone. First, I'd say, Scott, I love these things to celebrate in March. I think that's awesome, and it really ties in perfectly to some of the advocacy stuff that we'll talk about this after till morning for 2 more minutes. But either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, I'm not sure when Gianna will be able to get it out to you guys, but I did prepare a great communication that you can send out not only to your city council representatives, but also to your school board reps. I really want us to kind of, as I mentioned last meeting, get the opportunity to invite them down to their local library, be able to get a physical actual card, take a picture with them, and kind of get them connected more to what's happening in our community spaces. I think that's really critically important. But then also making an ask to them in the communication too, like when you're having your next civic association meetings, or when you're having your next community style meetings, or even at the city council or school board meetings, talk about us. Or, allow us to come down. I mean, you guys know I love to talk. I'd love to go down and talk more about all the things that are happening within our non-public libraries and how they can get involved, but also get that communication out in their newsletters to explain to them, like this great thing that you guys gave us today. What are our operational hours for all of our non-public libraries? We also have a great handout that Scott prepared for us that I have attached to the communication that talks about like how you can download our app, whether you have, Google Play or App Store. If you can't make it down, I give them an ask to say, it's okay. I know you guys are in the middle of budgetary season and doing everything else for the city, but you can also visit our website, and I give like really quick kind of steps of how they can go on the website and actually get an e-card. So those are the things we really want to tie in, but then still kind of insert, what we're trying to accomplish, this year as we kind of go into budgetary season. We still want to make sure that we are extending our hours. We still want to make sure that we're adding in the programs to support our literacy efforts across the city. So those are things that are kind of baked in that communication that you'll see. So again, hopefully you get that out today. I guess to see you guys, but definitely by tomorrow. But I think one thing I wanted to add, just from looking at what Scott prepared for us today in his director's report, if you have one of these locations, and bake that into the communication as well, share, one of these great anecdotes. I think that's a great kind of tie in to say, like, here's some of the amazing things that are happening in our respective branches. And I also shared a little bit in the beginning of the intro of the communication about the laptop program. Because I think, as you just mentioned, we want to make sure that we are doing our part to kind of get that out there as well. Because what a great program that is. I was literally just having a conversation last week with a community member, and they were just like, hey, so-and-so is looking for opportunity, but they don't know what they can do at the library. I was like, oh, we just have a laptop program. Go down and check out one. So, it's already, it's going to pay, major dividends for people in the community once they have more information about it. So.
Thank you.
And good advocacy for the libraries, pitching, every time you talk to someone, you could do this, you could do that. Good job.
Do we have an early literacy update?
That would be me. And 6 months ago, I came to all of you on September 28th to talk about early childhood literacy, birth to 5. And I gave you like a million trillion statistics. One that really scared me was that 5-year-olds getting ready to go to kindergarten statewide, 42% were not ready. In our city, that number is 57. So I knew that we at the library had to do something, and you knew it too. We all voted unanimously that this is a priority for Scott and his team. So I kind of want to tell you, since we're 2.5 months out from summer, our magic library time, where we are and what we've been doing. And everything I say has been in collaboration and in support of Beth Morris, our children's librarian, and Scott. So we're all on the same page. We are also enormously aligned with the foundation, and you're going to hear about the many, many fruitful activities we have going on with the foundation. So I want to talk about 2 things. First, in September, I talked about my vision of the plan, which I called AIM, A-I-M. Amplify our efforts with partners, initiate new programs, and do more. And by do more, I meant generally, but we listened to Emily. We need to do more on Saturdays and Sundays. So let me give you 3 examples. They're going to play off what Susan just said of the things that are going on. First, we're working with the Children's Museum of Richmond, and we are developing using the basics, which is a very rigorous, well-recognized methodology, a summer camp for 5-year-olds. Now, I know you hang on my every word, but if you remember, the summer slide for a 5-year-old is 3 times that of a child who's older. So they get out of, if they're an enhanced program in May, and they have forgotten everything plus by the time they start kindergarten. So this is a newly developed, newly launched initiative for 5-year-olds, and we hope it has some effect on that 57% rate, making them more ready to go. The second thing I want to mention is family fairs. We understand the family is at the heart of childhood learning. If we don't deal directly with the family, we are missing step 1 in well-educated, literate children. So twice a month during the summer, Once on a north side library, once on a south side library. We're gonna have a fair type atmosphere. Gonna be on a Saturday or Sunday. We're going to have activities that families, parents and children can do together. We're gonna have entertainment. And we're going to have resources. And these are gonna be a myriad of city resources. But for example, we're gonna have RPS there, ready to sign kids up for school, make it really, really easy. Again, never done before. We're partnered with Excel that works with this group, and we're reaching out to resources throughout the city. The final thing we're doing is we are beefing up, which is not hard because it's 0 right now, our Saturday and Sunday children's programming. And so you are going to see for the first time in a long time, children and family programs on Saturdays to make it easy for those working parents to, as a family, to the library. There are a million other things that Bev and I have on the table, but those are 3 big ones, and they're at the core of the AIM initiative. Now, let's talk about obstacles. We had 2 big ones. One was people and one was money. Talk about people. I had mentioned a couple months ago that one of the ways we handle Saturday programming and more children's programming is by bringing in paid summer interns. Scott has pushed that through the system. And for the first time, we're going to be able to hire summer graduate students and advanced, juniors and seniors who are education majors or are working in the literacy field to come for the summer when we need them and supplement our program. Now, I've reached out to VCU, BSU, I've reached out to all of the universities. We have people saying, I'm ready to apply. So this is really going to be, I hope, the kind of situation that it's a plus for the kid because they get a nice shiny resume builder and we get just the right kind of extra help to be able to do everything we plan. So the people, we think that's going okay. Money. So Susan and I have been working our tails off approaching local, regional, and national foundations. We started late. I don't know how that's gonna go, but we are heartily engaged. And whatever happens this year, it will be much better next year because we're learning all kinds of things. Susan and her team, including Jennifer Goins and Sue, are creating a Maya Smart program that is going to engage the community, reach out to individual funders. And for those of you who are like me and live and breathe fundraising, know they're the heart of any program you have. And all of our collaborative organizations going to bring them together for a fabulous event. So the foundation is doing truly wonderful job. And Scott is knocking on every door in the administration to find any penny that is not committed and is going to try and bring it on home. I don't know how it's going to end up. I am confident that we're doing everything that we can do to fund our ambitions. And our ambitions are to have the family and children of this city progressing and making a difference in their lives. I'm done.
I was wondering, is anyone familiar with the Virginia Funders Network? Have you ever heard of that?
The Virginia
Virginia
Funders
Funders
Network.
Network, VFN. It's an organization now that, a lot of funding, people who have money, I guess, are getting into, and they're coordinating efforts on donating money to, I know nonprofits. I'm not sure, who else they donate to. But, another board that I'm on, we're involved in it, that we just got involved in it. And it's helping to coordinate, so everybody doesn't give to one organization, it's spread out amongst, various organizations in need, but it might be something you might want to look into, is, Virginia Funders Network.
Is it part of the Community Foundation, Sharon?
I think the Community Foundation may be in it.
Okay, okay,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you,
Mhm.
thank you.
Okay,
I have one-
Um,
I have a question before we move. In terms of the calendar, when are you hoping that your summer camps with the Children's Museum, do we have a?
So it's gonna, so what we're trying to do is it will probably start in July. I will email you the answer because I don't actually know the answer. What we want is the camps to go right before schools end, right before school starts.
Okay.
We don't want any gap. So when school starts, know that that's the last week that we have camp. And then I'm not sure if it's a 6 or 8 week program because they're developing the program content as we're speaking right now.
any other questions or comments?
We should all be really proud of this. This is a board initiation that I think is going to really enrich everything that the library does. I will also say, because I really love talking, that we are in alignment in a way I haven't seen before. Supporting Scott, supporting his team, the foundation, the staff. Now, that takes a lot of time. I mean, we're coordinating ourselves constantly so that we're all going in the same direction and we're all sharing information. But for me, that has been one of the strongest elements of the whole early literacy, is being able to bring us all together and then moving forward in the right direction.
Well, I appreciate all that you have done.
Yes.
Oh, I have found it enormously rewarding. And I have learned a lot. So I'm thankful I got to do it, quite frankly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the board committee reports. Bill is not here, so I guess we'll move on to the finance committee.
All right. Yep. I think you all have something in front of you that's the pages from the mayor's proposed
Right.
budget.
Right.
And if you turn to page 97, you'll see that the mayor has proposed a pretty significant increase for us. I would never have imagined we would have been able to surpass.
Did you have any sense that this was going to happen? I was shocked,
Yeah, well, it's
delighted, but shocked.
delighted, shocked, very surprised. I think you all need to give yourself a big pat on the back because the constant kind of like framing of this issue and promoting this issue and letting council know kept it front of the line of people for funding. And the city is at a point where they have resources now.
Right.
And if we weren't at the front of the line or in the line, we would not have been considered. So I think that's the really important thing, that the advocacy that started 2 years ago, this didn't happen overnight and has been carried on by Sharon and Garrett, and just the strategic and tactical things that we had to do to get it raised. We've been able, with this budget, we've been able to restore the 2019 levels and surpass them. So in terms of resources for books and materials, which is the heart and soul of what we do, we're there. We've got the funding we need, and you will start seeing big differences as the collection improves. Staffer, that's one of the top things we're doing. And then as the strategic plan indicated, access. They heard us on that. And so they've restored funding for $800,000 to expand main library, restore Ginter Park, and add West End to it. So in that way, we'll have libraries open 7 days a week in almost every area of the city. And that's significant. We still need to get some more people to have more programs happening in those spaces, but this is a big step in just getting the door open and then build, having a library that's open 7 days. That's a big deal. I believe we'll be able to expand evening hours. So, I'm optimistic that we can have more evenings across the system. And I'd like to see us implement earlier openings in some areas. I think 10 o'clock is fine in some places, but there are some neighborhoods where there's early birds. And they would be willing to and happy to come in at 9 a.m. And we probably can do that. So those are things that this budget will allow us to do. I have to say that the city was very employee-centric in this.
Mhm.
It's probably been one of the most considerate of employees that I've ever seen since I've been here. There's a salary increase that would be at about an 8% increase across the board. The opening starting salary for any position, even the lowest position, will be $18 an hour. That's significant. So we can no longer say, well, I could make more money working at McDonald's. So that's going away. And I think that is very significant. The other thing is the small thing, but it was really something that really aggravated people, was having to pay for parking. Our employees had to pay for parking down at City Hall. They had to pay for parking. So eliminating that as a benefit, it really kind of shows going the extra mile to be considerate of employees. There's an odd one on here. If you look at page 98, the radio shop. I looked at it and thought, what in the heck is that? Well, it's about cameras. We are becoming more and more a camera-centric sort of organization. We have cameras in this building specifically, but we don't have cameras in other places. For security and monitoring, there's a big push to do more cameras. So I have a feeling we'll see more cameras at our branches and an update of the cameras here at this building. So those were operational dollars that were put in, and I have to say, we've gotten what we've asked for. Now, I'm not going to say that, hey, that's great, you don't need to do anything else for us. It's a great start. We're going to come back next year and say, it's awesome we've got those hours. It'll be even better if we can do more programs in the building. And we've got to start on that as well. You heard Chris talk about the path we're heading down in early literacy. The timing on that is amazing. It's something that's desperately needed in our community. We all see the scores for PAL scores and graduation rate in the city of Richmond. So we can say we are part of that effort to try and address that problem. So the timing is right. All of the things we are doing aligns with what the city is. And so I think your promotion of it and letting council and the mayor and administration know that we are in alignment and we are pushing as hard as they are, helped us get this funding. So Bill wanted me to really stress how great this is that we got this. And but it's not over. We have to say thank you and say, awesome, we're going to take that money and we are going to do more with it than you imagined. And then we're going to come back and say, we're going to point out where we need to do even more. So it's, so gratitude and thankfulness is awesome, but always with we still want to do more, right? So I congratulate you all, and I thank the staff who day in and day out do their very best to meet the information needs of all of our patrons. All staff, public circulation, reference, librarians, technical services, housekeeping, administration. I don't want to leave anybody out, but it takes that teamwork to make sure that we're delivering library service every day in new and innovative ways and listening to our community. So it's impressive, and I'm very grateful for this budget and what we've been able to achieve.
Can I ask a question about the cameras?
The-
And I'll
The
introduce it.
cameras. Okay.
Several years ago, there was a big case, I forget which library, where the FBI came and wanted to know who was using a particular computer, sending messages that they had intercepted. and wanted to, you know, talk to this. And the library said, no, we're not sharing that information. And we're the library, yeah. No, what happens here is, and it went to the appellate court case. And the library said, no, you know, we protect. People can read anything, you can't see what they're reading, no, we won't give it up. So my question with cameras is, are we going to provide that to law enforcement?
So we don't have any control of the camera system. So our staff can observe it, but if someone requests some sort of image or video, they have to reach out to the radio shop, which is governed by emergency communications.
Okay,
And they apply the legal system to how it goes. So we've had, you know,
but you see where I'm getting
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
in
Yeah.
this.
Most of the cameras are positioned at entryways and
Okay, yeah,
we do have some cameras throughout the building and they have helped us in terms of situations where we've had something that wasn't, it was an inappropriate patron behavior.
it's
And
that
we had,
balance between protection and
Right.
privacy, yeah.
it's a very rigid balance.
Yeah.
You know, I've been around long enough to remember when the Patriot Act came in. We had to start keeping track of all kinds of stuff. And we, as libraries, we really had to evaluate what kind of information we were taking, what kind of information we were keeping, why were we keeping it, and how does it serve us? So we don't, you know, we didn't need to take people's names if they were on the computer. We don't keep information of where they visit. It's all
Right.
stuff that just happens when you're on the computer, that's your information. When you log off that computer, your history goes away, everything is a restarts essentially. We have had situations where people have been doing illegal activities. And police have identified it, like the case you've talked about, and the police will come to us and they'll say, I need to take that computer. And I was like, you absolutely can have that computer. You need to bring me a court order from a judge.
Yeah.
And a judge, if they submit it, then they can have it. But I don't turn any records over, circulation records, patron records for who signed up on the computer. None of that is readily available. We protect, you know, the app that you have on your phone. No one has access to that information. We're pretty deliberate about the way we safeguard
Yeah.
access to those because, you know, we want to protect our staff from being accused of it, but we
Right.
also want to keep people from accidentally walking into stuff. Oh, I don't need to see that. So.
But in our age of censorship,
Mhm.
There
Again.
should be a written policy.
Your
that
call,
From
but-
somewhere.
nobody,
Yeah.
no camera should be focused on what books I'm checking
Mhm.
out, just as a,
Yeah,
do you see what I'm saying?
yeah, so your concern is, and correct me if I'm wrong, your concern is that somebody outside the library, EOC, people who run the camera system could be witnessing what people are checking.
Right.
Okay,
Well, I mean, I'm naive. That's the only concern
that's a good concern.
I can think of, but we read the censorship movement is growing. We don't want to provide tools to make it easy for them to,
Monitor.
So are we talking about just a kind of blind filming, or is someone sitting there monitoring what's gonna go on in the
We have a-
branches or
We
something?
do have security monitoring videos in this building. So we have cameras in this building that are monitoring mainly entrances, and exterior of the building. Some of the areas of the building where we have high traffic going through, we monitor those things. Now, it's more reactionary. It's not usually preventative. If we have a patron who's caused problems and they're on our ban list, then we'll keep an eye out for them and say, hey, you're not welcome to come in here because you can't abide by the rules. That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. The whole point is to try and keep the space as welcoming and safe as possible.
and,
right?
and I,
But we can't
I
abandon.
absolutely understand that, and I have no problem with that. But as you said, in a prophylactic manner,
Right.
we just want to make sure that it's general entrances they're not seeing.
Right, that's a good point. If they're adding more cameras, that will be something that factors into the matrix, because that's information they don't need.
No, they do not, only for bad purposes.
Right,
could
and
they
if there's a
want that. Yeah.
Unabomber using our computers,
Yeah.
then they'll be able to track that down, and they'll be able to follow the FISA court or the
Yeah.
the court system to get access to that information. So, but that is a concern that we are very deliberate about how we
Where they're placed.
monitor and
Where they're
place. Yep.
Where they're placed.
Yep.
That would be something I would love to see in writing, what the legal parameters are. You know, when I go to my doctors, I get all these papers saying what they can and cannot do and all that. And for their own, you know, for the protection of the library, since someone else is looking at this, we need to know what they're looking at and what our responsibilities, liabilities are. You know, and I don't want to get caught up in a big legal thing, but I'm sorry, today with everybody suing everybody, I think for our own protection, we need to ask a lot of questions and get some stuff in writing.
Well, the city has a whole policy on how their cameras work, how they record information and who they authorize to access it. And it's governed by the emergency communications. And Cheryl can, correct me. We've had people call us up and say, I had a car accident on Franklin Street. Do you have a camera outside? We do have a camera, but it may not capture what they want. And we're happy to turn over stuff like that because that's.
Yeah, yeah.
But when we have it,
We're talking about generalizable information. versus
generalizable
patron
information
specific.
isn't
Yeah.
available for people to. Yeah,
Well, can we get a copy of the city policy that's available to anyone who comes in here, you know? Just to have access and a sign or something, you know, saying this is the city policy or something. I am very leery of legal loopholes, and I think we need a copy of the city policy at least to be available. If people are coming in here and being filmed, they at least need to have access to their rights and.
so we can reach out to the people who control the camera system and ask them what their policy is, because they're the ones who maintain the system and they oversee it, so they should be able to provide. us
And
with
that's
policy.
probably used in all city buildings.
Oh, let me tell you, there are cameras all over the city
Mhm.
at traffic lights. When they turn on the EOC, they can pull up on that screen. Intersections, buildings, all over the city, there are cameras and they are monitoring. I don't think we're to the state or to the level of what, like in the UK. UK has
Yeah.
CCTV all over. We have it here. It's not to that level, but I believe it will be very soon. And so, that's, as you can see, they put funding in everyone's budget to subsidize that. So that is funding in our budget, but it's not going to us. It's funding that will be enterprised over to the emergency communications people who are overseeing the camera network, and the cameras are everywhere.
Big Brother is watching you.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
because for main libraries, it's not the case at the branch.
We don't have cameras at the branches yet. Now, we get asked for that all the time. And I don't know if cameras really, to me, they don't stop bad behaviors. They don't stop things in their tracks. They have been helpful when we've had something happen. And we've been able to pull up something when something has happened and provide it to the police to help them investigate a crime. Because we do have situations in these buildings. We are a civic space. So everybody comes in. We have good and bad things happen, unfortunately. And they will help kind of investigate things down the road. But that's a good point. We'll reach out to emergency communications and find out what the city policy is on that. I'm kind of curious about it myself because the cameras are everywhere.
I do think it would be valuable to have that information available if somebody asks.
Yeah.
I mean, or a sign, I mean, I'm not opposed to the sign notifying people that there are cameras on premises, but having it ready so that if somebody asks the policy, and librarians should know it and have it of that information.
Well, we should be able
available
to
the
direct people to where they can get the information.
Absolutely.
Because it is a city policy and it's really governed by, again, emergency communications and the police department.
All right. Any other comments?
Well, it's an exciting budget. What can happen between now and final approval?
Good question.
That is a good question. So they've been meeting every Monday for a couple hours each Monday and the CAO, this is different than in the past. It used to be we would have a parade of directors go up and present their version of what this budget would be. This year, the CAO is fielding the questions and answering and providing the information, and that is what I'm used to seeing. When I came here from the city, from Richmond, I would never go up and present to a city council or county board of supervisors. I would have that discussion and the CAO or the city or county manager would make that presentation because they are ultimately in charge of it. And that's what's happening. It's going, to me, it's going better because they can better relay what the mayor's goals and objectives were in the proposal of this budget. And so then it's a listening session between city council and the administration in terms of what was needed. And a lot of the questions that I'm seeing are things that were already in the budget that they needed pointed out to them.
Yeah.
It's very kind of not, so far, there haven't been any big ticket items that they're having long discussions or conflict about. And hopefully that continues. I haven't heard any things that they're gonna affect our budget. It's pleased, it's positive for us, so it moves us forward, so.
Are there any of these meetings that we should show up for?
So at this point, I don't
You don't think so?
know.
Okay.
Now, if, who knows, somebody gets a wild idea and they wanna reduce something or increase something, that's a time for us to see what we can do to answer any questions and be informative about the process. I would want to work with the administration on that.
Yeah.
Because, ultimately, they take something if they give something to us, they're gonna take it from somebody else. And it's all,
Yeah.
it's that game of, I got a glass of water here and I need to take half here, so.
And you don't want to answer that question, but we would be happy.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's better that you
And we
answer.
got the crack team here. so
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you all are very capable and thorough at being able to provide them the information they need. But I don't foresee anything at this point. Now, that could change next week. It's not been as volatile as I've seen in the past because we are not having kind of the triangulation that would happen when we would have departments come up because sometimes, a director wouldn't know exactly what the intention was or what the goals were, and we would have this kind of splitting going on between council and the mayor and the administration and departments. We're not having that, and that's a good thing, actually.
Little more stability, it seems like,
Yes. Yes.
from the outside anyway.
It's not as crazy as it's been in the past. And it seems the way it was presented, this budget was presented, it was very straightforward. You could see where everything was. And a lot of those follow-up questions, so council could put in 5 things or they put in whatever they wanted. And the administration has been very good at explaining, yes, that's here. Or if they're wondering about money in this, it might have been somewhere else. So they're helping them understand where it's at. I mean, it's a $2 billion operating budget. It's a $3 billion cap with the capital improvement projects included. That's a lot of funds in there. There's a lot of departments that can manage that. And we tend to focus on the little teeny tiny things. $20 million here.
Lincoln Saunders is doing a good job then.
Yeah, he's being very thorough and considerate and really very patient explaining and being very thorough with council. And I think council, the way I've seen it is council's been, their questions have been thoughtful and considerate. And, all of the 9 council people are very interested in their district. So, and that's what they should be. That's why we elect them, right? So. But I don't foresee anything drastic at this point. That could change next month.
I have a question. Gary, does your handout that we're gonna get this week include maybe a couple sentences of Chris's program with collaboration with the Children's Museum for these summer fairs.
It doesn't, but we could get together and I could easily add that.
Don't you think that, I think that would be
It'll be
good to, yeah, introduce upcoming.
Absolutely. It's a great idea.
Any additional comments? Okay.
Is there, I'm curious, is there a number of the tax income increase? There has to be a gigantic amount of income coming into the city with all this growth. It really is amazing to me how many buildings are being wedged into empty lots.
So I'll see if in one of the first presentations Mr. Saunders did to the council, he provided a deck that had kind of explained exactly what you're asking, and I'll see if I can find it and send it to you all this afternoon or later this week. And they did this really funny graphic, and council just loved it. They took a dollar bill and they sliced it into all the different parts, and it showed where if you had a dollar bill, this is where it went, and it was like first based on 100. So 4 cents go to schools and 3 cents go here, and it was a very simple graphic, but they loved it because it was simple and people could understand what part of the budget was going where. And it also answers that question of how much is coming in and how much we have, and then how is it all like boosted from the ARPA dollars, because those are still here and they're going to be expended for probably the next 3 years. So I'll see if I can find that. and send it.
There's so much growth. It's
is.
amazing. Taxation increased tremendously.
All right. Any additional comments? Let's move on to facilities.
All right.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
So we haven't really done too much since we've gotten the master plan. We've been waiting for the CIP to come out. The CIP was delivered the same day the mayor did his budget. So I have good news and bad news. The good news is we're gonna get 1.5 million to replace a boiler in this building. And we're gonna get about $350,000 to replace electrical panels. And you go, 350,000 to replace electrical panels? Well, that's a big deal because our electrical panels are 50 and 100 years old, and they just literally wear out. And so it's a huge project to replace those to really keep the building's energy needs running right and efficient. So that's the good thing. The sad thing is they did not adopt the master plan as funding for design development. I was hopeful that we would be considered, but we were not considered in this year's budget. So it doesn't mean we're out. It means that it's still in there, that we have delivered the master plan. So in the future, they can allocate resources to go to the next level based on the master plan. So it's not surprising because we didn't get the master plan approved until January of this year. The CIP process begins. It's going to be released now. They're going to answer questions on it now, but it begins after the new budget is done. So we should have had it done back in May of last year to really be in the process for the running. We'll be in the process for the running this next year, and we'll see where the funding goes. The city CIP process, they have a lot of projects in there right now. They're putting a lot of effort into the Chaco Bottom, the museum that they want to add there. They have 2 schools they're going to build. They want to replace a police station and a fire station, and they want to really do a large fire training center. So those were big priorities that were life, safety, health issues that are going to squeeze into the queue ahead of us. Parks and Rec, they're getting a lot of their things done. You know, they're getting $80 million to build new buildings. Had we had our master plan done in 2019 before the pandemic, we could have been in line to chase some of those dollars, but we didn't have it done. So we've been a victim of not having our master plan done until now. So now we have that master plan. We've met the requirement of the city, and we can start contending for those dollars in the CIP in the next process. So it's an ongoing process. Just because we didn't get funding this year doesn't mean we're not going to get funding next year. They did put funding in here for maintenance for the main library. Thankfully, we're not having lots of maintenance issues in our branches. Because the remodeling, the repairs that we had over the last 10 years they're pretty great. Now, are the branches in need of expansion and a master plan? Absolutely. You know, we need to look at our branches 20 years after we did basically the first plan and see what we need now, because those needs have changed. So the one thing that, so we have good news and bad news. We're gonna keep plugging away at this, and we'll keep this moving through the CIP. We are not gonna just sit back with the master plan for Main Library and just go, well, we'll just wait till the money comes in. There are things that we heard in that plan that we can adopt right now for very little money or no money at all. So staff here are taking ideas from that plan, and we can start implementing them right now for little to no money. And we can also stop doing some of the things that we heard in the plan that aren't working. So, this is a building of last century. So my idea is that we keep the stuff that was working for us from last century, and we adopt the new things that can carry us forward, and we let go of the stuff that isn't working for us anymore. That's what we need to do. And the master plan allows us to do that. So good news, bad news. Overall, it's hopeful and helpful, and we'll be able to keep doing a better job as the main library and the library system of Richmond. So that's where we're at with the CIP.
So will our master plan age well enough to be ready next year as is?
Yeah, the big concepts that we talked about, the problems that we raised, the contentious things that we talked about, those are all things that would get revisited in any design development. Those things aren't going to change next year. We're still going to have issues with using the right space. We're still going to want to have all the collection on the first floor, have a welcoming space. We still need meeting rooms and study room spaces for the community.
Right. Those are pretty timeless, but I was thinking, wonder if some new requirement is imposed on these master plans for the city. Somebody comes along and says, well, you didn't fill out these forms, or you didn't.
I mean, that could happen. It seems though that the architects did a great job of reflecting where we're at now. The hot topic issues, sustainability, energy efficient, all of those issues were addressed or raised, and they'll be studied more in the next level. The one thing that we have done since we got that good news and bad news is Brett brought to my attention and Bill's attention a grant that we could kind of go, what I'm going to call fishing for. You want to talk a little bit about that, Brett?
All right, yeah, so United States Department of Commerce has come out with a Tech Hubs grant. And they've actually got two programs. I didn't bring the information with me, but one is a Technology Hub grant as part of the CHIPS program, which is funding that was passed by Congress. I'm not sure exactly when it was passed by Congress, but it's the intent of the CHIPS bill was to promote more investment in the semiconductor industry in the United States because of COVID and the chip shortage. But some of the provisions in that bill were grants to distribute as almost like economic incentives to certain areas to invest in technology and infrastructure and growth. And my thought was, the master plan for our main library is, in Europe, libraries are somewhat known as media centers or technology centers now. And so, this is kind of the vision of the master plan to be more of a technology-based library and a learning center and a lifelong learning center. That this could kind of help, we could potentially ride that wave on, technology or the semiconductor industry. So they've asked for, they put out an RFI, request for information on how they should structure, kind of what should the criteria be for awarding these grants to entities. And we've responded. The deadline was last
Yeah,
Thursday, I think.
I sent an email, Brent sent an email, Bill sent an email, Susan sent an email, so we provided information to the email account that the Treasury Department had that's overseeing this.
Right.
It's $1.5 billion.
1.5
So
billion.
it's a lot of money. I don't know. I think we framed our description along the lines of what they're asking for, and we're hopeful that we'll hear something. This is a tactic we could use to get some of our plan through. Now, there's some wonderful pieces now that we have a master plan. So if somebody says, hey, great idea, we'd love to support your library. Do you have a master plan? Why, yes, we do. And it talks about technology and how it elevates and how we can provide access to it. So yes, we now have that. We can pursue dollars at a federal and a state level, and they pop up. And so we could, if they say, wow, that sounds interesting. We've never thought about a library as a technology hub. What kind of things can you do? Well, we can do this, that, and the other. And they say, well, maybe we can give you a couple millions of dollars.
Right.
And now the city's incentivized to go, well, we don't want to let that $5-10 million
Go away.
go away. So we've been thinking about doing the main library. Wouldn't it be great? Now, that was a tactic that worked very effectively for me in a library system, in the system I came from. We got this wonderful, and it came from a strange place. It came from transportation. Somehow transportation gets money for buildings, and you can make a case at a state and a federal level that libraries would be a part of it. They have big dollars. And they'll say, here you go. And the best thing, if you can get one of those grants, is if it has what I call a clock on it. It says, you need to spend this money in 2 years. That accelerates the process because it inspires leadership to not let that money go. So this is an opportunity that we have. If y'all see things like that, send it along. Always be thinking about how we can do that. And Brett brought that to me. And so we had a strategy session. We put it together. We've got another one we're going to close on this week. It's the 26th, another request for information.
Right, for another program.
Who knows?
Right.
Who knows? So be thinking about that, and that would be a way to move this forward.
Yeah, like Scott said, the United States Department of Transportation, I went to a meeting back in February with the executive director at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. They've got like, I think it's like $2 billion that they're trying to, in funding for infrastructure projects that they're trying to mobilize and spend quickly. So I've been in contact with the executive director. Actually, I got an email from him, a response from him this morning. So I'll try to set up that meeting sometime.
And I'm going to say that is exactly what you do. Federal people have to talk to you. They serve the public.
Right.
Developing a relation. There's a guy or woman who's managing that program. They know things that are not in the RFI.
Well-
They know things that are not in the RFP.
Well, the little bit of divine intervention here is this guy is based in DC. And during COVID, he decided to move to Richmond because he could.
Holy cow.
Right. So he's in
Okay.
charge of the entire United States. He travels all over. He told me he goes all over, all 50 states trying to educate people on this federal money that if it's, it's transportation oriented,
Mhm.
but it doesn't, depending on, and I told him what we're trying to do at the main library. And I asked him if our project would qualify, and he said, absolutely. But I
But
mean,
see,
it's
that's
still a
what-
process.
This is exactly right. You
Right.
develop a relationship with the program person and there will be rules there, but there are things that will be unsaid that we will know.
Right.
Good work.
So, and if we can get some of our own money, it'd be hard for the
Yeah.
city. You go to the city and say, hey,
Say,
can you?
wow, we've got this amazing opportunity. You want to connect Jackson Ward to the other side? It's awesome. We all want to be a part of that. There's federal dollars there. Here's more federal dollars. Free money, right?
Right.
You can't say no to free money.
It's one of the reasons why I was involved in the Main Street train station revitalization back in 2014 through 17. And we got a Tiger grant $25 million from the federal government.
Yep.
And that job would not, but the key was everything was teed up. I mean, we had the drawings done,
Get it all done ahead of time
Yeah.
and they'll tell you what you need to do.
right.
Yeah.
So that, having the master plan done allows us to do that.
Right.
Now we can say, oh, look at this opportunity. We need design development because we really want to, and then in design development, we can scale and scope it towards way it'll meet the needs and expectations of that, group, but also meet the needs and expectations of our community. So all is not lost because we didn't get funding in the CIP. It just means we have to work a little bit harder, be more strategic, keep framing our case, keep building
Exactly
our
right.
case. And keep
The
going after it.
competitive world out there.
It's not a
Yeah.
problem, you know, we don't let it beat us down.
All right.
All
So I
right,
got any other questions?
all right, let's move on to governance.
So no updates from the government.
Thank you. Any unfinished business? There being none, let's move on to new business. No new business. Well, since there's no other business, adjourn the meeting at what is this, 12:50.